All right, so welcome to a little bit the kind of content portion of our Christian Peace Building Network call, where we're introducing some of our preliminary core practitioner team members who have been nominated, and we're looking forward to these folks helping to steer us going forward as we continue to network and diversify the core team and continue to build this Christian peace building movement. So first, we're looking forward to hearing from Daniel Munayer from Musalaha. So Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Brian. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel. I was born and raised in Jerusalem, and I'm a Palestinian Christian. And my legal documentation is that I have an Israeli passport, for those of you who are aware of the different types of legal documentation Palestinians have. But I was born and raised in Jerusalem, and went and studied as well, and mostly my background before working with Musalaha was working with refugees. So I was working mostly in Greece and Iraq in different refugee camps in the island of Lesvos. I'm sure some of you remember when the rubber dinghies were arriving from Turkey, and then in the mainland camps, and then in Iraq for a while in the city of Mosul and Mosul district. So that's where I was for a few years. And now I'm the executive director of Musalaha. Musalaha is a faith-based organization that teaches, trains, and facilitates reconciliation between Israelis and Palestinians, but also between Muslims and Christian Palestinian. And we also have a 6-stage model, which is unique, that we've developed ourselves, and a 22-chapter curriculum that is being taught at universities in different places around the world. So we teach a master's course, for example, at Pepperdine University in California called Faith-Based Diplomacy. So we are trying to make ourselves relevant and also help other people who are exploring reconciliation in different contexts. And then as of now, we have 8 running projects. We have 7 groups. This is a very busy month for us at the moment. We have 5 groups meeting almost every weekend. So we're in 5th gear, and I'd be more than happy to share with you more at a later point. But that's where we are at the moment. We're trying to get better and stay relevant in the context that we're in, since it's not necessarily easy to do peacemaking and reconciliation in contexts of extreme imbalance of power, and also in a context where people are segregated from each other. So, but we can discuss that more when we discuss themes. But that's more or less who I am, and what we're doing as an organization. We work with women, children, youth, young adults, civil society leaders, community leaders, etc. So yeah, that's me. I'm happy to be a part of this network, of course, and I'm happy to learn from other contexts and connect with people who are like-minded, who are involved in peace and reconciliation. So really just a great opportunity to connect, to learn, and also to share.
Yeah, is there any quick comment you can make about what connecting with an international group can actually do to enhance your work in Palestine, Israel, and how influencing thinking and conversations and helping people be aware of your situation there could actually enhance your local work?
Yeah, so the Christian church is a part of the problem, and part of and is and to a large part, particularly the evangelical community in North America and Western Europe. But now it's also spreading in the continent of Africa and in certain places in Asia as well. So the church is a part of the problem here, and taking very strong theological and political positions that favor one group of people and gives privileges for one group of people over the other makes it very difficult for us to actually do reconciliation. And people lose the ability to be bridge builders between people. So I think I'm interested to share, I think people need to be aware that they're a part of the problem and they need to recognize it, well, which part of the problem. And then I think everybody has a responsibility towards the different situations that they have power over. So yeah, it's an opportunity for people to speak up in their churches, networks, families about the situation here. And I think what's always interesting, or what I'm learning and realizing as I'm traveling, is that people will tend to side with the different sides here according to how their own identity mirrors the different identities here. So, I won't get into all of that, but the process of understanding our own identities and how our identities can bless other people or come at the expense of other people are related to their own domestic context and how that has a transnational impact as well. So yeah, I hope I managed to answer the comment well.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much, Daniel. And we're so excited to learn together with you and strategize more about how we can work together towards holistic flourishing for everyone. So thank you for sharing.
I could add one last thing. I'm also a part of the Peace and Reconciliation Network of the World Evangelical Alliance, the MENA region. Musalaha is a member of that, and we've been meeting now for, I think, this will be our third year of meeting and just connecting with people in the MENA region, with different actors, the solidarity, becoming family, and also advocating together, doing different initiatives together has really made a difference to us here. And like you said, you can feel lonely and alone, but then you realize that you're not. So that's also great to connect with a different network and to see how we can all collaborate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Daniel. I'd love to jump then to the next person, to David Kadaba, and we'll jump to you next because there's some overlap between y'all's contexts and work. And so please feel free to introduce yourself, your work with Telos, and about why you would want to connect with this kind of networking effort and how this enhances your work and what you want to contribute and add to this networking effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And yeah, Daniel, I feel like you just explained my life a little bit and the work that I'm doing in some ways. My name is David. I'm from the States, originally North Carolina. I grew up in the South, born to two pastors' kids. So grew up very much in a Christianized home, but somewhat in kind of a fundamentalist expression of Christianity here in the South. But I also come from a mixed ethnic home. On my dad's side, my family is Syrian American. And so I've always had this connection to the Middle East. And as I aged, I began to feel and sense a dissonance between those experiences and those communities, and particularly the ways that one of them, particularly my church community, talked about the family and the connections that I had to the Middle East. And so that started me on this long journey to better understand my own heritage, especially as the Syrian civil war erupted in 2011. I was in high school at the time, and it was a really catalytic moment for me in deciding kind of where I wanted to spend my life and what I wanted to do. Ended up also finding my way to Lesbos, Daniel, like you, and working with Syrian migrants there at a transition camp in Greece during the large refugee flows from Syria and the rest of the Middle East to the EU. But ultimately, just caught this vision for wanting to do work that honors and dignifies vulnerable people, and especially atones and repairs the ways in which faith becomes weaponized against those vulnerable people. And that was the experiences that I saw and witnessed in my own community, and wanted to start taking responsibility for that. And be largely because I saw the potential for Christians to own their own gospel, our own gospel, and be a part of the work of peace and justice and repair in the world. So ultimately, I found my way to Telos, which is an organization that's not technically faith-based. We're multi-faith and multi-partisan, but we form and equip communities of peacemakers to help heal seemingly intractable conflict, primarily in the context of Israel and Palestine, but also back here in the States. We're based in DC, which is where I normally live. And we identify that the Christian church in the US, as Daniel mentioned, is very much a part of the problem, and unfortunately in Palestine and in Israel, but we believe it can be a part of the solution, that it can actually help expand the possibility for peace and justice for all the communities there. And part of the way we do that is through these immersive travel experiences. We bring people on pilgrimage, but we do it in ways that honor the dignity of all people, primarily by not just taking folks to the places where Jesus would have walked 2,000 years ago, but to the places where he would walk today, which is to the margins of society, to the folks who are often silenced and ignored. And we learn from them. We hear their stories, and we are instructed by them, and we learn how to advocate for them upon our return back to the States. So we're trying to train and equip the church in the US to accept that call to be peacemakers, as Jesus describes in the Sermon on the Mount, as I think, Steve, you mentioned, and what that means, both for the communities across the world who we feel like we're not close to or are a part of, but actually we do connect with, and our choices matter and to them and impact their lives, but then also our communities back home, particularly as it relates to race and justice in the US. So in some ways we're an education organization, in some ways we're a truth-telling organization, both to help people see the world in new ways, particularly their own implication and realities of injustice. But we're also trying to offer a new vision for what things could be like, a vision of shalom and repair, and what it looks like to be a part of that work today. So I get to do that work, particularly with the faith communities that we engage with, building resources, kind of facilitating some of these experiences, building content online. So I've been there for about 4 years now, and I'm really excited to continue that work also now with these connections and these new friends on this network. It's been a real gift to get to be a part of this work for a couple years now, Brian, I think. I remember us having our first conversations quite a while ago now, and it's been such a resource to us and to the work that we're doing, having insight from folks across the world who've been doing this for a long time and in different contexts. We found in our work that it's so helpful to get out of your own context, to be able to see your own relationship to your community in new ways. And that's part of what we do. And I know that this community will offer that as well. So I'm really looking forward to learning more from each of you to share and to keep building a church that accepts its call to be peacemakers in this world.
Thank you so much, David. Very well put. Scott, we would love to hear from you. And so, Scott, forget the context, how long I've known you, Scott. It's been a little bit longer than around a year or something now, I think, is whenever we met for the first time, but we've been in the same orbits for quite a while. And so especially your work with YWAM on Cuan in Rostrevor, Northern Ireland. And so I'd love you to share more about your journey and your work with YWAM on Cuan, and how connecting to this kind of Christian peace building networking effort, how it aligns with all that you're doing already.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. And thanks everyone so far for sharing. And yeah, it's great to be with people doing such amazing things around the world. Yes, I've been in Northern Ireland the last 10 years. This YWAM base has been here for 13 years. It was started by a man named Johnny Clark, who maybe some of you have met or heard of. He's been around the kind of peace building world for a bit. In a lot of ways, I think I came here when I was 18, so it shaped me and shaped my faith away from something much more shallow and kind of instant gratification-y, and into something more slow and transformational. So I took over 2021, I think, here. I took over about 2 years ago now. as a director. And we've kind of, I think over the years, we walk this line, YWAM can be part of the problem. If we can keep using that language, as far as global Christian witness and what it does to the world, it can be a big issue. And I know that, and I kind of feel a bit like, I don't know, I think the word like shadow walker, like a day walker. I feel in between worlds a bit sometimes in YWAM. I feel like a covert operative peace builder trying to kind of transform YWAM from the inside. And to be honest, I still have a question mark of if it's possible. I'm not sitting here saying that it's maybe should die. I don't know. I know what we do is good. I trust that. I trust that our community and our base is doing its best, I suppose. And that's part of like, I guess what I'm, I think what maybe, I suppose my kind of where I spend my most time a lot of the time is just trying to bring a community that's international, intergenerational, and interdenominational that has come in with the context of YWAM and kind of whatever that means. I could talk more about that another time, and bring them on a vision towards being a peace building organization. Look, what does missions look like if it's focused in a shalom vision? And yeah, just kind of, as I said, Johnny was also doing that. But in some ways, and this isn't a criticism of him, but he found his peace building work a lot of the ways outside of these walls, which is brilliant. And the stuff he's doing now is even really great. But I think a lot of what I'm doing is kind of gathering the 30 some odd people we have and moving them in this direction step by step. And of course, I'm involved in other areas within YWAM as well. In kind of the national leadership team here in Ireland. I'm involved in the Wales, Ireland, Scotland area, and also Europe in general. And being able to kind of make some sort of influence in those regions towards this stuff is kind of what I'm spending my time on. But yeah, I think I'm coming at peace building at a very different starting place, I suppose. And even in conversations with Brian, like walking that line of kind of charismaticism, all this stuff that YWAM is. I think our community here is fully YWAM, and it's also different, and it looks like what Northern Ireland should create a need for, in the story here of the Troubles. And we're located on the border where it's incredibly beautiful. If you see me looking to the right, I'm looking at like beautiful little garden birds coming along and enjoying the seed I've put out for them. If you see me looking to my left, it's probably because my son is there or whatever. My wife and my son are hanging out over there. So I'm also a dad and a husband. And my son will be 1 in July. So it's been a great, so the first year of directing here was mad. And then the second year was add a baby, and subtract sleep and add some daddy weight as well. So there you go. And also, I suppose, like, I see this as, it does enhance our work massively. It provides me, in some ways, I feel super isolated at times. Like I said, YWAM's crazy, and it can be amazing and beautiful. And I don't want to just hate on YWAM. That's not the boat I'm in. But I also think, sometimes I do feel like more than the black sheep. I feel like a different species at times. And finding people who have similar kind of worldviews and who are similarly trying to build something really gives me, it gives me hope. I think also I can look at you guys and see you as resources and see you as voices that can help shape my guys and help shape whatever impact that I'm bringing, because you're all coming from your contexts. And I just see that kind of the perspective from different contexts and starting points, departure points, as so enriching to me, massively enriching to me. Even the language you're using broadens me and will also broaden my community. Even like, so what, just one example of this is I took the last like 5 or 6 weeks and did a very short version of a peace building small group with our guys. And I saw how their prayers changed. It's fascinating. I just saw how just as charismatic of heart, just as let's scream out these things, whatever, but they're praying God shalom come to earth as it is in heaven, and they're praying redemption, and you're just like, okay, this wasn't for nothing, and that's what this sort of group brings to me is resources. And I don't have to go and have a whole library. You can see I have a little library, but I also have a library of board games because I like to play those as well. But yeah, so it provides me resources, and I think one thing that YWAM's really great at is collaboration and overlap and cross-pollination and relationships. And I see this group as an extension of that. And so you'll be feeding into YWAM Europe, especially as you share via me, hopefully, if it's good enough. No, I'm joking. But yeah, so I really appreciate being here. I told Brian, I'm like, I don't know how much I really bring to the table, but one thing I always will bring to the table is self-confidence just to say whatever I'm thinking. So you have to stick with me with that at the very least. So cheers, guys.
Well, Scott, it is great having you here. And I feel like all the tensions that you name with our own communities, it's very real and something that I've heard from so many people, both here and far, far beyond this space. It's something that not only our own Christian community wrestles with, but Muslim peace building friends and their communities and every other peace builder I know wrestling with tensions of how to invite our community along. So the witness that you all offer of so many leaders there with you, embodying the community, trying to wrestle through what does it mean to begin to lean into peace building is really incredible. So thank you so much for sharing. All right, so time is going pretty quickly, so we'll have to try to speed up slightly, but I'd love to have Saji and Kendra, each of you, to share. And then after that, we'll hear from Bob Mayonza, and then Phil Wegler will finish us out. So go ahead, Saji and then Kendra.
Hey guys, we are coming from Kelowna, BC, where we're at for a retreat. My name is Saji. I'm originally from India, but I was born in Texas, and yeah, just even walking between those two worlds has allowed me to become a bridge builder. But really got to know and understand peace building through my connection with the Mennonite Brethren or the Anabaptist Church. And I've been connected with them for a number of years. And even though it's a church that has had it's an original peace church as such, there's lots of ways that we've been working at trying to renew our people, our work, our witness, our peace witness. And so for me, moving to Turkey and getting involved in Armenian and Turkish peace building was one of the ways that I dove in firsthand. My family and I moved to Turkey as missionaries and then got involved in ongoing peace process that's been building relationships between Armenians and Turks. And it's been an amazing journey. And then I'm going to let Kendra share a little bit about some of the next stuff that we've done. But our hope is to create safe spaces for young people to learn more about peacemaking and then to launch them into a world as peace builders.
Yeah, thanks, Saj. Saji, I learned a lot of what I believe about peacemaking from Saji's. Really, just so grateful. And we've been able to do a lot of really meaningful work together. So kind of like launching off of the Turkish-Armenian reconciliation work that Saji pioneered. Saji's like a starter, and he invited me in for something called Building Leaders for Peace, which began as a response to the Syrian refugee crisis in Turkey and the dynamics that were at play. And it is still deeply complex. But we began in 2020 2016 was our first peace camp where we gathered around 70 young people to really build friendship and address fault lines and be changed by friendship and by the Holy Spirit, and just beautiful things that happen when we come together with a unified focus for peace and what that means for us, and forgiveness and reconciliation and conflict transformation and all that good stuff. So from that first peace camp in 2016, peace camps in Iraq and Colombia and Indonesia and other places, the US as well, just have been involved with young people and creating those safe spaces for healing and flourishing and understanding God's heart for shalom, as Saji said. So there's a lot to be said about that, but just a lot of just really like passionate for the next generation and activating, followers of Jesus. I love, it's been said on here a lot, and we agree. And David, I think you articulated it, like inviting followers of Jesus to step into our call as peacemakers. Like you said, Steve, like that's being a son and daughter is like synonymous with being a reconciler and a peacemaker. It's powerful. Rich Velotis says how we understand the gospel will inform the nature and scope of our work. And I think I can speak for, I think Saji and I, and maybe all of us, like it's a reconciling gospel. It's like core to what we're called to as followers of Jesus. And we're passionate about sparking the next generation to believe that and to operate in that and contribute to the flourishing of all people. So, yeah.
And we believe, like, being a part of this network is that we're better together.
Yeah.
Simply put, we are better together.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Saji and Kendra. And we're so excited. You all, so many of the folks here are already networkers in and of themselves individually. And so we're so excited to continue to combine a lot of the energy that individually we've been trying to push forward, whether it's organizationally in our own organizations, whether it's in our own personal networks, and how do we start to capture some of that energy, provide continued support and growing momentum for this movement. So thank you so much to you both, and we're excited to learn together. All right, next, Bob, we would love to hear from you. Share about you and your work and what you're involved in.
All right, can you hear me? Well, my name is Bob Mayonda. I come from Uganda, the part of Africa, and I'm honored to be the only African representative on this call. I'm honored to be here, and I want to let you know that I serve as the country director for Pilgrim Center for Reconciliation in Uganda. We have our headquarters in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and we have offices in Rwanda and in Nepal, Mexico. Actually, I also supervise the office in South Sudan. So on the 25th, I'll be going to South Sudan to carry out healing and reconciliation retreats. Our work as Pilgrim Center is to bring hope by healing and renewing of individuals, restoration of relationships, and revitalization of communities. I have a lot of passion for young people. We are trying to develop a movement and set up a movement of young people who are ready to be reconcilers, peace builders, and leaders of change in regards to shalom and also reconciliation. As Pilgrim Center, we have other courses that we offer, like war reconciliation, becoming a reconciler. We do a lot of healing and reconciliation retreats. We do, in Uganda, we have peace and reconciliation clubs and also in the universities. And we are also going to be organizing a boot camp with lawyers, because we believe that as a sector as groups of people, we need to see how better we can work together, not separately, but together, and how we can bring in a lot of things. So we work with young people, we work with refugees. Next week, we'll be part of, we're actually doing a reconciliation walk on the 20th, on the International Refugee Day. We are going to be partnering with other refugee-led organizations, and we're hoping to have a population of 800 to 900 young people that will be marching, and we'll be having a reconciliation walk. And we work with refugees coming in from Rwanda, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, all around the East African community. And I'm very, very excited to see that we are having this movement and having this network, because I think one of the things that I love is to find out where God has called me to the position of empowering than power, because most people find themselves not answering the question, where am I called to power, or whether I'm called to empower. So I'm believing that we in this network, we'll see how better we can empower one another to see how this movement of reconciliation, movement of the church, and how the church can spearhead and position itself in this dispensation of helping shaping the world more in peace and reconciliation. When you come into Africa, you will find out that we have a population, most of African nations have a population that has 75% of young people, that is the ages from 35 and below. And we have to be a little bit intentional in how we shape the next generation of young people that will move into the offices that some of you are already sitting in. So, but how we empower them and what we nurture them is very, 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 very important in what your grandchildren will either take or throw away. So I'm very excited with this. And we also do a lot of inclusion. Our inclusion is so much with the disabled community, on how we help them come into the healing. Because sometimes people, when already say in Practitioner that healed people heal others and wound people wound others. So we try to see how healing can be the catch gate of how people can improve their relationships with one another, but also how healing can help into community development and community revitalization. So I'm very, very excited to share and to learn and to give you a few of the stories that we are having here in Uganda and in Africa, with also part of our friends, refugees that have been coming here that we have been working with. And I'm also excited to reach out to all of you who are interested in coming and partnering with us, and also seeing how we can network for reconciliation, because it is the best thing ever. Thank you. Oh, I'm married to the most beautiful woman. She's called Brenda. And I have a son. And my son is Bradley Hezekiah. He's 2 years and 7 months. So I'm a little bit older than you in current field, so it's all right. And I'm excited to be here. So thank you, Brian. Thank you everyone that actually, even though you nominated me to be part of this team, I'm looking forward to serve, to learn, and to move alongside all of you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Bob. It's always a joy to connect. And so I look forward. There's so much incredible conflict transformation formation going on in different parts across the African continent. So many incredible trainings that have been established. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot more from what you all do, as well as other pastors that I've been getting connected to recently. So thanks so much for being involved, and we're excited to continue learning and from one another and improving our work collectively. All right, and then let's hear from Phil. Phil, thank you for joining us. Phil is also listed in British Columbia, and the director of, and you could say where, I always forget the name of the town, but the director of the Peace and Reconciliation Network, which is a commission of the World Evangelical Alliance. Go ahead, Phil.
Thanks, Brian. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm in the great irony of this call, I'm literally across the lake from Saji and Kendra this morning. It's morning here for us. And so actually, we're going to have some time tomorrow. But we are literally calling from the same city. So yeah, it's Kelowna, British Columbia. It's my home city. I serve as the global director for the Peace and Reconciliation Network, along with Cornelia as part of the team. Daniel, as had mentioned, the Middle East North Africa team as well. So listening in, the dimension and element of this that I think I bring is that I am focused on what has actually been described here in some ways as the problem. So the problem, and I feel this too, my vocational life, my calling has been to serve the church. I've been a pastor in 6 different churches, most of whom have needed healing, brokenness, loss of mission and vision, loss of their call of being a reconciling community, and have no clue of what it means to be reconciled to one another, let alone be a reconciling force in the world. So I've been in the midst of that for my ministry life, and then also served in, I've been a Mennonite Brethren pastor. So my history and discipleship is from the Anabaptist movement. Is what I grew up in and came to faith in. So I served actually with Saji as well, and Kendra within the Mennonite Brethren Global Mission Agency as well. So all these different elements have been part of my, I would say, my the way God has formed me. And so what I would say is 100% I feel the church is part of the problem, and 100% I believe she is the solution. Because not because of what we make it to be or the ways in which we struggle along, but because it's actually what Jesus said, and it's his body. And there's this great mystery that happens in the body of Christ. And no matter what community I've been in, no matter the different conversations I've been in, I've still not seen anything quite like the body of Christ when she understands her identity as the bride of Christ and brings the fullness of the gospel of reconciliation into view, and struggles, I would say, to discover what that means for the moment in time in history that we're in. We're always, like right now, we're doing work which will lay foundation for another generation to have to figure it out. But this is our moment, and we have a responsibility. So the Global Peace and Reconciliation Network is a commission, as Brian said, of the WEA, the World Evangelical Alliance. It's a messy, big global family. It represents about 600 million Christians who in some way or form are connected into that wider fellowship and network, really. And our task as a commission is to inspire and equip the church to be a reconciling force, that every local church would be a center of reconciliation. And with all my heart, I know that's an incredibly massive task, and it takes all of us. But every local church, if she awakens to this, can, no matter what size, the size of the fellowship is actually completely insignificant. It's whether the heart and the heartbeat of God and his reconciling work is put into practice and struggled through. And when we live that out, amazing things happen. And I'm really inspired by all of you, your work in wrestling with that, but also the work you're doing in living that out. So I'm married to Jen. We have 6 kids. 4 of our kids are adopted, and in God's great sense of humor, I actually have a Russian son and a Ukrainian son. So that's interesting. And so we plod away at figuring out how to live this. And if it's not as real in our household as it is in our neighborhood or what we are trying to influence even between nations, it's nothing. So this is the journey. The Peace and Reconciliation Network has essentially how we function is we have network coordinators in different regions of the world who seek to build a regional network. We work very closely with the evangelical alliances because we're WEA, and our task, as I said, is to assess, understand what's going on in different regions, and then find and network the best theology and practice that will shift denominations, organizations, learning institutions to increasingly build in the work of peace building and reconciliation in the heart of the mission of the church. So I'm constantly making notes in these meetings because I'm just like, it's just so beautiful to me that God constantly is raising up, equipping, and inspiring new works of this, because it's the work of the Spirit of God. This is God's heart. So it should never surprise us like, oh, I didn't know that group or that, organization was doing those things. And it's so beautiful. And though you may feel isolated, our job as PRN is to see you and to increasingly help connect you, and also just be able to say to the church, the Spirit of God is stirring stuff. Local church, you better get to know this and start employing it, and maybe start practicing it. And so that's who we are, and a bit about me.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. And
I'm going to go swim across the lake now to Saji and Kendra. Absolutely.
Go and hang out together, get a coffee. Physical contact, actual connecting in person, so essential, not just by Zoom. That was fantastic, and I think summed up a lot of the purpose here of how do we, acknowledging that I think is part of peace building, acknowledging how our side has contributed to so many of the challenges, so many of the divisions, but actually moving through that to say, how can we begin to recognize that, to self-interrogate, to own kind of our contribution to the problem and ways that we can try to move into a different sort of role as healers to begin to reconnect with others across differences. And so, like you said, the church being part of the problem, contributing to divisions, but also all of our work of how can we start to invite our own Christian communities, local communities, organizations, networks, personal networks and beyond into this vision of shalom and this work of peace building is really at the heart of this whole networking effort. So yeah, I'm super excited about this group. One of the things that we have already identified in terms of how we want to diversify from the get-go is continued geographic diversity, but also gender diversity. So many, the vast majority of peace builders, peace building practitioners in the world are women. And so we would love to have that reflected more in this kind of space together, to really hear all the insights and the contributions that women peace builders have already been making in the field and make every single day in their everyday lives, but can also contribute to us as a group. And I was talking to one Christian peace builder just the other day, and he said, it's actually kind of tough to name, partially because of some of the patriarchy dynamics in churches. And so in different contexts, in different places, connecting with different women leaders. So I would invite all of us to continue to think, how can we find and network with and get to know and build trust with different practitioners in different contexts, and invite more diverse leadership into this space. And the team, we're already trying to imagine, how can we design spaces and breakout rooms delving into these questions for people to have that more personalized contact, one with another in these breakout rooms, to get to know one another on a personal level and wrestle with these different topics that we all wrestle with as peace builders. So that's the trajectory going forward. And so please feel free to reach out. You have each other's emails, connect further after this call, and I look forward to going forward from here together. So thank you all for your time. And I will end the recording.
Thanks,
once
Brian.
I can find where it is, but it was, there we go.